Let's see if we can get this going. There we go. I think we're up on YouTube. Let me get a link to Kyle here. When people join, it's going to be, I don't think I can edit because Lana set this up. I don't think people can like edit their own. Let's see here. You made it back. Oh shit, this is great. Uh, okay, I think we're good. We're gonna get a. Can you? I gotta see if Kyle can hear. Can you? Uh-oh, we can't get audio from. Okay, good. Can you guys talk for? Can you guys talk a little bit? Okay, yeah, I can hear you guys. The big thing is I just got to make sure that it's picking up the audio from you guys because my mic is like attached on the OBS side. God, people who are streamers, I can't believe they can get this. That's the problem. Okay. Let me see if I can find a different audio source. Um, all right, can you guys keep talking and see?
Ho, ho, ho.
All right, can you hear us?
It's kind of weird
Hello?
because I thought when we tested this yesterday, you could hear everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, Kyle says good. We're good.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, okay, great.
Awesome.
Ho, ho, ho.
I'm going to drop this into Discord.
What does it look like? Me too. I'll check it out.
Oh, I just pinged 20,000 people in our Discord. Okay, that's fine.
It's okay. All good.
There we go. We got some people joining in now. Better late than never.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll give it like a
Oh,
minute or
cool.
two. Yes, everybody, please get your ho ho hos into Santa Gin. I think you need a mustache, like
I
a.
do have a mustache.
Oh, okay,
Does have
It's
a
just
mustache.
very
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Oh,
Gotcha.
yeah, that'd be hard to hear you too.
That's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, here's a mouth hole for everyone to enjoy.
There. Wow. Yeah, that's gotta. I mean, I could hear you loud and clear, but that's kind of crazy.
What? What's so crazy?
I'm sure it is itchy. It's picking up your mic perfect. You
Yeah.
seem very,
It,
very holiday spirit.
yeah.
I thought I was gonna dress up as a Christmas frog because all I have is a frog costume, but I didn't know if that would match the theme. So I guess just having one Santa Claus works for it.
Santa can have a frog.
Yeah,
Wait,
Hey,
what's the
this
Christmas frog?
I don't know. I just only have a Halloween costume that was a frog, so I was like, well, I'll just put on a Santa hat and wear that. But didn't quite work out.
Oh, it's all good. Jen, you look amazing, truly.
I'm gonna forego the mustache.
Yeah,
That's fine. Do what
good
you gotta
call.
do. We're good. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining. It's good to see you all. Got a solid little group joining here. So this is our kind of end of year. It's our holiday. Say goodbye to what we've been doing and get into 2025, which is kind of weird to think it's just around the corner already. Rebecca, I'm adjusting your camera here really quickly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Perfect. There we go. Cutting off stuff. All right, should kick in here. Why don't we have a Grinch? Nikki says. I know, Nikki. We all. Oh, I had see. I was just talking about this with these guys. I have a frog costume. I should have tried to bring
Oh,
that
there you
in. That would have
go.
been perfect. It could have been
Double as a
our
Grinch.
it could have been our Grinch costume, but
Aw.
next time.
Hey,
Next time.
Micah, you have to adjust to a four-person view.
I know. I will. I'll add people when more people join through. It'll throw. Oh wait. Oh, somebody did join. Oh, Zlaka's here. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. Hold on a second.
yeah, yeah.
I got you. Just wait. Sorry, buddy. You have to bear with us when we have technical difficulties. Where's my monitor capture? Got to bring Jin in here, so we got Santa Jin back full screen. How we doing, Zlako? I think you're on mute right now. Nope, I don't want to do that. Give me 1 second here. Oh, on the fly, getting people in. Zlako, happy holidays. Welcome.
Hey, Mika, how are you doing?
Good. Got to get you on camera for the holiday spirit here. Do you like Santa Claus gin that we got going on?
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Wait, turning on the camera now.
no worries. This is a special holiday year for you guys, right? In
Um,
or a holiday
yeah,
day specifically? Oh God, oh God.
no, there's probably holidays in January for us.
Oh, it's
Maybe we'll
January.
take 2 or 3 days off. Santa Claus hopefully coming.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Perfect, Jane.
Should be good. Well, we haven't even really kicked off. We had some technical difficulties. We got some people hanging out in YouTube with us, which is great to see. Thanks for everybody who's joining. We wanted to kind of start off a little bit today talking about just recapping the year. I think Rebecca is going to kind of take us through it. We're going to get a chance to talk about Zlatko. Zlatko is one of our builders with Lusa. We'll talk through everything else that's happening. 2025 is going to be massive for you guys. So we're bringing in some Saga builders. In a little while, we're going to have even more people. So we're going to have to filter some folks out as they join because I think in about 15 minutes we got a couple other friends of Saga that are going to be joining to talk what else is happening in Web3 gaming and such. But yeah, before for everybody who's on who just joined, yeah, we're gonna be talking with Zlatko building Lusa the Final Frontier. Thank you, Zlatko, for joining. You've been with Saga for a long time, and obviously we're hyped to have you here. But we also have guest star Rebecca. This is gonna be mostly the Mick and Jin show for most of this, but we wanted Rebecca to be here to kind of I think recap for a little bit. You know what has been 2024 for us and what do we think is happening. I guess Jen will cover off on some of the stuff for 2025, but I guess it's time to kind of maybe go down memory lane for a second while we're by the fireside here.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Well, yes, guys, truly, virtual round of applause for Jin's amazing costume. He looks great. Best looking Santa I've ever seen. This is awesome. But thank you all out there watching, for joining us this morning, this evening, middle of the night, wherever you are. It's been an insane year for Saga, and I'm going to keep this short because I do my weekly updates anyway, and you guys have been following Saga for a long time, so you know what's been happening at this protocol, at least all the major developments. But I really want to take this chance to say thank you to all of you, because mainnet launching in April this year, that was already huge. That was off the tails of a really, really big mainnet launch campaign, where we pioneered play to airdrop, and it now has become a really essential way for games and a lot of apps in general to do user acquisition in crypto. So mainnet launch was enormous. We were the largest Binance launch pool in history. And then very quickly after that, we debuted our publishing house. So we are the only layer one. We're the only chain to have our own game publisher. And Saga Origins is going strong. We are looking for titles that are provocative, expansive, uncompromising. And we busted out the first three at Gamescom this year. Lusa was one of them. Lusa the Final Frontier, amazing shooting game, and also now a gaming platform for other games as well. And really, really close partnership with NVIDIA there. It just takes their game to the next level, not just in terms of graphics and quality of gameplay, but also just very, very innovative bells and whistles that they've added to game features. So Lusa is an awesome, awesome title. Angelic narrative strategy RPG, really beautiful game in crypto. Um, and God's Legacy, which is more of a fantasy RPG, takes you from ancient Slavic times to modern day, and then into the dystopian intergalactic future. There will be more titles coming out in the springtime. Really excited to announce this with you guys, but Saga Origins is kicking, and still the only Web3 game publisher. Um, Fast forward to around the same time, actually. So August, we had to pull off something really, really challenging to do, but also really critical and I think unique, which is at the same time that we were putting out our first flagship titles for games, we wanted to debut probably our biggest technology innovation to date. So mainnet was a big deal, but liquidity integration layer is the lifeblood of Saga. This is our DeFi layer. This is where all liquidity flows within Saga, so between Saga chainlets, but then in and out of Saga as well. It is our solution to liquidity fragmentation. We are the first ones to hit the market with it. And well, fast forward to now, we have upgraded to mainnet 2.0, and that was specifically to make way for a liquidity integration layer. This is shipping at warp speed. There are a lot of teams that have talked about solving liquidity fragmentation because it's a real problem, but we've actually done it. So that is sensational. We now have Uniswap v3 deployed as our canonical DEX. It is a canonical deployment of their smart contracts onto a dedicated app chain for the very first time. So it's a huge innovation, both for them and for us to be able to pull this off. Yes, everybody is focusing on the fact that you can now do gasless trading on Uniswap on Saga. However, really the magic behind this is the fact that they were able to get onto their app chain in 2 minutes. That's just the Saga way. So a lot to look forward to in 2025. Our North Star at Saga it remains the same. We are the place where the crazies dare to dream their craziest dreams. And we are all about users. So bringing new users into the space and really expanding crypto to the point where it has broader cultural relevance. Just the fact that we now have more attention on us, that we have more capital here, maybe because of political reasons or for market reasons, that's not enough. That does not guarantee mass adoption. It does not guarantee mind share. It doesn't mean that you have real impact. So here at Saga, we want to drive that real impact. And 2025, I think, is our year. So with that, I want to thank you all because none of this would have been possible without our community. You guys have been here supporting us. You do so much to really get the word out about Saga and to support one another. None of you are paid to do it. You're just here really because you love the project, you're close to the team, and you really like one another. And that is really, really sensational to see. So thank you guys so much. And well, 2025 is going to be a bang up year. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Mick and Jen, who are going to take you through the rest of the program.
Thanks, Rebecca. That was a pretty fast breakdown, but we obviously got a lot of new stuff to talk about as well. Zlatko, you still here hanging out with us? I think we lost your cam, but
Sure, I am here.
I've been trying to manage all the guests joining, and as people join and drop off, it kind of throws off. So, yeah, once Rebecca drops, and we'll bring him back in. I think we kind of want to talk a little bit about, what do you have going on right now, Zlatko? What's going on with Lusa? What has 2024 been for you guys? What's going to kind of be happening as we move into 2025?
So yeah, basically 2024 was a massive grind for us. The whole team was working 24/7, also attending conferences and working all night to catch up with the Telegram chat that's exploding. So far, we've put our game. We had early alpha tests, then we've added it to the finally Epic Game Store in mid of October, and we're running some game nights with former friends, competitive players, etc., and reached almost 1,000 different players. We've joined the NVIDIA Inception program, where we get great resources from NVIDIA. We've integrated their AI technologies like Reflex and DLSS, and we managed to reach something that they told us they don't think that's possible. So they tested our game in their labs as well. We were able to increase like on the worst hardware, like very low level, from a Dia show with 6, 7 FPS to over 40. And we got some surprises from NVIDIA as well. They shipped some graphic cards, which we are very thankful for.
That's always
Um,
awesome.
yeah, definitely. Early Christmas present, I would say. Let's see if Jin can bring something more in. Um, yeah, so still grinding, onboarded some amazing team members that we will share next year. Yeah, so far, then 2025, we're looking to launch then the closed beta in hopefully March and then go full public in June. That's what we are aiming. We hope we will achieve that. And we want to launch on PC already available, but then on PlayStation and Xbox as well. Cross-play enabled. I think we're the first one to achieve that, hopefully already in March. Also, we will start integrating blockchain, hopefully Saga as well, as the first one, as we're working now so long together with you, and appreciate also for the Gamescom. Was my first time on stage. Was a great experience. Appreciated it. And yeah, so 2025, we're aiming to achieve the most and best for not only us, but for the community, implementing all the feedback we received and extending the content. And last but not least, we're working hardcore on our AI, which we see it as Jarvis from Iron Man. It will be for every player accessible. It will be your coach, your friend, your partner, your battleground partner, which helps you navigate through the fights. And we want to make this accessible also for other game studios to use. So we want to provide an SDK. Everyone can use our trained model then and add on it, especially shooters, because shooters are always similar. And yeah, this is our goal 2025, be the best game of the year.
You guys have obviously you have a lot like cooking that we probably don't want to talk about on this call, but it is like cool to hear you
Yes.
like I think like discuss a bit of uh like I think in Web3 gaming we don't often hear about like optimization stuff. Like usually it's like big trailers come out, a bunch of people talking about the game, and you're talking more about like behind the scenes, like what actually can make a game run that can bring in like 50, 100,000 like concurrent players, which is cool. I think it's awesome to hear. I think somebody in the space talk a little bit about just like what's the like mechanics of like building a game for tomorrow, because I think like so what we went to Germany with you guys in August and kind of did like yeah like you said first time on stage and a bunch of like reveal shit, but it was uh yeah, there's a lot more that needs to cook on things before it can kind of come out. So I don't know. Maybe you could talk a little bit about. You probably don't want to throw dates and stuff like that, but there's a lot of people on the call who probably want to on the watching the stream who are thinking about when can I get my hands on things. What's those as much alpha as you can give as you feel comfortable with.
Sure. So right now, everyone can register through our website for the waitlist. We are sometimes every few days, sometimes weeks, we're deleting keys that people are using and throw keys to new people to test out, and obviously gather feedback. So hopefully in March we will start ramping up numbers. Probably a few hundred players and 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, more and more as we see the servers are working as intended, because we're also integrating a big part of UGC, and how that works with the servers needs to be tested out with a mass of people. And yeah, from June on, I pray that this will happen. We really want to start before the summer. Um, to have the open beta and accessible for everyone on all platforms. And yeah, I talked a little bit about UGC. Basically, we will integrate Overwolf and enable any mods. You can change the core game, add different game modes, whatever you want. Basically, create assets, create maps, um, tweak the rules of the game. Instead of capture the flag, you could do you need to hold the flag for a few minutes, not bring it back to the base. So you need to run away and not get killed. Whatever you can imagine, you will be able to tweak it. And yeah, hopefully we will also launch 2 games next year. That's something we haven't dropped to anyone yet publicly, but we have one game is an alpha at the moment. The other game is more advanced. We haven't shown it to anyone. And third game is also in planning because our game design document grew. Right now, I think it's over 300 pages, and
Crazy.
we need to split stuff up. Yeah.
That's wild, dude. It's just like kind of good to catch up, and I'm imagining if you remember like Halo 3 Forge coming back when you're talking about modding the game and stuff like that. I'm like looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm missing those days with the mods.
But yeah, I know.
Was like you remember Unreal Tournament, man, where there was a mode like Instagib. You shoot and it's insta kill.
It was like kind of like
Or
a like Golden Gun almost from like
yes,
double oh
from
007.
from
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just
exactly.
put the basic gun that just like shoots
Yeah,
automatically with infinite bullets. You're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Get your ass over here. Chase people around. Quake had that
yeah,
too. Quake the Arena.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. All the possible to do so. Yeah,
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was
I don't
totally.
know
sure.
what happened to the Arena games. I think Quake was like re-released on like browser or something, right? That was like very interesting.
Yeah, I think the people that were building like Quake was built also on the same engine as Doom, I believe. I'm not 100%
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
And they stopped building it, I
Mm.
believe. They've run into some bottlenecks. That's what I've read. Yeah, obviously now Unreal Engine and Unity are the way to go, and hopefully we'll see more like compatibility between those two.
I know. I think
Uh,
that's a huge thing for gaming in the future. It's like weird that like almost every game on the planet now is like divided between two different worlds, and it's like you kind of got
yes,
to choose a side and stick with it after that. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. There's studios specializing in porting from Unreal to Unity or from Unity to Unreal. I think there should be someone working on making it compatible, interoperable, as we're doing on the blockchain.
Exactly, man. Yeah. Well, it's good to see you guys like tackling, I think, just modding and customization. We've talked a lot about it earlier in this year. And I mean, obviously, we're like hyped for you to be able to showcase more of the game and what you guys have been building and to get people's hands on it. But I think like what you're trying to put together is fulfilling a lot of like the promise that we've had, of where we'd get with blockchain shit is like be able to do things like you should have more freedom here, right? Than like traditional gaming. And I think that you guys are building with a little bit of the like core cyberpunk like idea a part of this. But oh shoot, Bryce Hackerman, what's up, guys? I just got another person. I'm throwing off the live stream with too many cameras on here. Zlatko, I might have to kick you out, so we're all good. Is that okay?
No worries. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to speak with you. Yeah, and wish all the guys tuning in a great time here with the live stream and hopefully learn a lot and get some alpha here.
Yeah,
Thank you for
absolutely.
having me.
Appreciate it,
Thanks for
man.
coming, man.
Thanks for taking some time.
Bye bye.
See you later. Bryce, Ace Hackerman. I don't know if you guys know each other. Ace, we haven't even like introed you on the call. To everybody else who's kind of joining the live stream. You'll have to please forgive me. We have like actual streamers here, which kind of sucks because my OBS skills are a disaster and our YouTube's going sideways every time somebody joins. But Bryce, can you hear us? You good? Maybe not.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, for sure. Ace, how are you doing, man?
Yo.
What's going on, fellas? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. For everybody who's just kind of like getting into the live stream here, we're just kind of doing a little bit of a fireside to end things out. We wanted to kind of talk. We had Rebecca on a little bit earlier talking about recapping some of the stuff that I feel like we've accomplished or we've been working for in 2024. And, you know, we've got, this has been a big week for us at Saga, but we have like some pretty big stuff on the horizon. But yeah, I wanted to get some friends in here. I got to figure out, we want to do more live streams, but I might need some help from,
We have another
Ace.
person.
Oh no, Brendan, I need to kick you out, brother. I don't know who all has the link to this.
Yeah, we all have it. We're just all popping in.
I guess, yeah.
Jen,
Hopefully it works.
I'm loving the Santa Claus look.
Yeah. I have a mustache as well, but it's a little too itchy, so I have forgone that.
You got rid of the mustache and just said, I'm just gonna keep the James Harden below.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
Brendan, can I have you jump out of this one, brother, and I can send you a link to the stream?
Of course, all good.
Thanks, man.
Good to see everyone.
Nice talking to you, dude. Yeah, Ace, you've been a obviously like friend of the pod, I would say, for a minute. Thanks for joining, dude. I appreciate having you here. I kind of like have a couple things that I want to throw back and forth. Ace, I'm kind of keeping you on the back burner for a second, but I wanted Bryce to join. We just had Zlatko from the Lucid team on, and just talk a little bit, maybe, Bryce, chop it up with you on you're coming out of the end of the year for 2024. Obviously, I think Saga in the past has kind of maybe gotten pigeonholed as gamer chain, but we've got a lot of gaming projects that are building, and so you're deep in the Web3 gaming space. Wanted to kind of hear what you thought about this year, maybe what you're thinking about heading into the next year. What's good?
Man, Web3 gaming. It's I feel like the world of Web3 gaming is like in a very weird and interesting place. Like part of me is like, man, maybe we might be back for the traditional speculation around NFTs, and then I look up and the metaverse plays are doing really well. Like you see like games like The Sandbox and Wilder World, which are like crushing it. But I actually don't know what next year will bring for gaming. Like I'm bullish on the idea that it's going to be a good year, but I'm a lot more intrigued right now with like what's happening across the space of AI and all these other consumer areas of crypto. I think that gaming is so heavily long-term product driven in terms of it, like the cycles to build good games take a while, that I'm almost like hesitant to be like, oh man, yeah, next year is going to be the year of gaming because everything else is doing well. I think that,
Yeah.
you know, you can take the meme coin world in kind of its own little silo because it doesn't take as much to get a product that people are behind or interested in versus gaming. So, I mean, I'm bullish on the idea of what gaming can bring, but I still don't think next year is the year where we look up and we're like, we see a game that's doing, you know, major top of the chart Steam numbers concurrently without having to, you know, be paying like the top streamers tens of, I don't know, millions of dollars a month to stream it. So I don't know. I like that you guys are branching out in terms of Sagas, not just pigeonholing themselves into just being solely gaming, because I think that like it is unproven whether or not gaming can be just a purely sustainable model for a chain. And I think that ultimately everything deduces back to like, where is consumer spending and how does consumer spending operate on chain? And I think that every chain has to think deeply around, we might be bullish on gaming and like gaming, but it might not be gaming's time yet to be the limelight or like, you know, the beauty or the diamond that's in the rough. So I am very bullish on gaming, but I think that like chains that are taking the time to build things that are beyond just gaming based protocoling and publishing is going to be like an integral part of like staying around long enough for gaming to actually see its moment.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think that I've had a couple thoughts as like we've gone through the year, and I've talked and downloaded and played like a gorillion games that aren't even out yet, that just, you know, we're working with projects or projects want us to kind of check out what they're building and things like that. And I think like 2021, 2022, my background is in gaming stuff, and I felt like there was going to be this singular title that we would end up seeing that just was like that thing. Like, okay, it changes everybody's perspective all at once. We get our Fortnite or PUBG or whatever people talk about. And I think like seeing the last couple of years develop and even into this year, one, I think people are getting a little bit more aware of the genres that they can break through with. Like I actually am seeing like so much quality in the roguelikes and the deck building games because they fit
Smart.
really
Yeah.
narratively. They just like fit in a person's mental model of where crypto can play a part. And I'm kind of starting to think a little bit less like put all my chips on the table. It has to be one project that kind of like brings it out. Like shout out to the guys. Obviously like it was cool to see the kind of burst of attention that Off the Grid got, and they were probably like closest we saw to like when they pulled off like a pretty impressive like opening weekend marketing plan and things like that around it. They threw the kitchen sink at things and got that visibility that I think in 2021 2022 this would have like been like holy shit we're here, like this is it, like crypto's big moment. But I think like the space on a whole now, people just my guess is that we'll see less of, oh, we have our Web3 PUBG, we have our Web3, whatever, Metal Gear series, and more like you'll see really solid genre specific titles that maybe aren't top 10 Steam, but they're going to be in the top 10 what people play when they play gotcha games for sure. Like we got AFK and Genshin at the top making 300 million a month. Or there's going to be a Web3 game there come 2025 that's on that list of multiple millions. Is it going to be the top one on Steam downloads or iPhone downloads? I don't know, but I think like we have to kind of like pull a little bit of the speculation out and just say like, okay, great, we've matured quite a bit. Last 3, 4, 5 years in Web3 gaming. What's like realistic for where things that incorporate blockchain are going to kind of sit in the like larger game ecosystem?
Well, also like you know, the the pivot, and it's not a pivot, but like the transition from the gaming industry from focusing on like these huge singular blockbuster titles to
Yeah.
like more indie, more smaller launches, more smaller studios. It's probably gonna follow the same suit essentially, right? Because a lot of the times in gaming, at least, innovation in gaming comes very slowly, and it usually comes from these kind of moments where smaller studios kind of do something weird, essentially, and
Yeah.
then everyone's like, "Hey, that could work in my game," and then it kind of percolates up. It's like a very weird industry, in my opinion, in that regards. And so, yeah, that I mean, Web3 probably is going to be one of those. You have lots of little experiments happening everywhere, and then somebody will look at one experiment and go, "I think we can make this like a revenue driver for us much more easily," essentially. And then there'll be like lots and lots of copycats of the exact same thing over and over again until one just is like the top of the charts, essentially, right? So.
It's kind of funny that it's been like almost like ships passing in the night. Like everybody in Web3 has been like going like we got to get our big AAA title out the door, and the gaming industry has been going the other direction and saying like we actually need to support smaller games, and I'm going to download 10 games and throw my money across a bunch of them versus just doing 2, 3 AAA titles like launches that are going to
Facts.
dominate the space. It's kind of it's like wow, we're finally maybe catching up with where the rest of the like consumer in the industry is.
Like seriously, we don't need these crazy titles to pop off for like value to be like accrued in chains. I mean, even if you look at like, for example, it's not my cup of tea, but there are people who think that Pixels is like the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, it just feels like Stardew Valley, I guess.
Yeah.
But to that point, I'm bullish on the idea that casual and hyper casual games will be more effective for Web3 growth than trying to build a AAA title that requires a ton of money, requires a ton of time, and then you're hoping that you get gamers to like want to play this versus like it's much easier to build mechanisms for hyper casual games that keep gamers playing. And I think that like the feedback loop that developers can get for those games is so much faster. Like you could build a game that's like a Pixels or like a Cosmic Bomber or something, and it might only cost you like $500,000 to get a good product out the door, maybe even a little cheaper versus, hey, we need to raise 10 million from you, then raise another 25, then go hire somebody from I don't know, go hire somebody from Bungie and hope that they can come in here and work magic. And then you get to the end and you've raised $70,000 and the game still doesn't hit. So I'm personally like a firm believer in the hyper casual and indie. And I think if you look at like the original thesis of like what Web3 was supposed to be, it wasn't supposed to be so overly institutional and corporate. It was supposed to be more of just like you have these small groups of teams building really dope projects, and because they're so lean and can like can pivot and make vertical change very quickly, there's a lot of upside on the table for either people investing in the project or people who are like, early stage believers and want to play. And you see it with some of these AI projects, like, for example, the fair launches from like the AI 16Z and all these other companies that are in like this AI bubble that have now been like, hey, we're just going to like launch a token. That token will just feed the value of our ecosystem. And basically we'll starve or eat based on how well we can ship and how well people are enjoying our product. I think that like a lot of these games would do very well, and just a lot of projects in general, if they follow that standpoint. It's like, yeah, like raise less money, try to bootstrap, try to get people in on sweat equity a bit more. And then the chains are also going to be more incentivized as you grow to want to work with you and provide you with grants and opportunities and things, because they're seeing the value that you're bringing to an ecosystem just on day one. So no, I'm very much bullish on the idea that like we need to go back to where teams are super lean and people are willing to like, in my opinion, like raise less money or have an actual product to a certain point before trying to raise money. Because I think that's what really killed gaming in the previous cycle, is like you see projects doing well, everyone's raising a ton of money, everything's going incredibly fast. VCs are basically throwing themselves in every single round. It's like, yeah, if I'm a VC and I've invested, I led a $10 million round, and you TGE your token. Yeah, I have LPs. I'm gonna want to dump some of the token too, and just add value back to the people that invested in my VC firm. So I feel like it's like a cycle of like the value has to be there and be derived from some strong basis or source. But even if you look at like what recently like Pudgy Penguins, it's like when you look at their project, a lot of it started off as like infrastructural sweat equity coming from Luca being like, all right, I'm gonna put up $2 million and build this to a point, and then I'm going to go raise a modest seed round by 1K. I think it was 1KX Ventures that led their seed. And, raising a modest seed round for 5 million, once you've already put millions of dollars in sweat equity and showing that there's value here, versus like, hey, we have this cool deck, we have this cool idea, we think it can be valuable even though we haven't really done any user testing or got any feedback, and give us money to just do this thing. So I think that like the world of Web3 is changing a bit in terms of how projects are being structured and launched.
100%. Yeah. Ace, I feel like you've got a take on this too, because you obviously like, you're in the space, you're trading, you're tracking new projects as they come through. Do you feel like a sea change, I guess, in like how you see projects launching, or how they're maybe think about raise or go to market?
Yeah, I mean, everything he says, that there's some really good points there. I mean, when I first joined, people were in that phase where they were raising a lot of money, but there wasn't necessarily any kind of product out. But now we're getting to the point where either projects have been on a lean team and they've been working for the past couple of years, finally getting to the stage of a product finally coming out, or there's companies that are getting ready to come out now because all the products, as far as like AI tools and all the coding tools that are available now, are much better than when I was first in. So I feel like it's a lot easier to launch a game, get things going nowadays versus back before. So as far as like the quality of the games and what's coming out, that I feel like is just more a matter of what people like and things like that. I don't necessarily
Yeah.
play too many Web3 games to really know that. But I feel like if you're going to keep drawing people, it's half is community and the other half is like what kind of incentives they're bringing out for the community to actually play and stay playing of the game.
Yeah, I don't want to like. I mean, yeah, we can. I want to kind of move past a little bit the Web3 gaming side, but I'll say this: like, we are, we're gonna like kind of in January announce like a pretty big hire for us that is very focused or interested in the kind of the gaming sphere. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about behind closed doors is the fact that the way community building works in our industry is so fundamentally different than a lot of go-to-markets for gaming and just for regular like tech startups in the traditional space. And there actually hasn't been a lot of, I'd say, like projects or influential thought leaders who've kind of put two and two together, that the way that you can build a community prior to like product launch for a game, let's say, like we've seen that kind of proven track record of people build the hype, build the community, and then kind of like launch the game and help kind of drive them into it earlier on. That's really different than the way it works in traditional gaming right now. You might have like a cool tease trailer, and then you get your wish list campaign going on Steam, and then hopefully it runs from there a little bit. But the mechanisms and, like you said, Ace, the like incentives that we have that we can kind of work with in Web3 are totally different. And so we're kind of like actually thinking a lot about moving the other direction next year with some things. I don't want to say too much, I guess, Jin, but like we're thinking about a lot more Web3, the rails that we have from how a product can get built, from how a community can get built, and bringing that to more traditional startups and games because they're looking over their shoulders and being like, oh shit, I can generate revenue earlier, in my game or product life cycle. I can bring in the first 1,000 true fans a lot earlier in the process. And like, we think there's like a really big opportunity to kind of reverse engineer actually the way that like regular Web 2 games and regular Web 2 startups are kind of going to market because blockchain just opens up a shit ton of new opportunities for people to get people involved earlier in the process. And like you said, Bryce, like not just bank 20 million, bank 50 million, and then spend 2 or 3 years on like trying to get it out the door.
Yeah, and that time period in crypto is such a long time. So whenever somebody raises that much and they're like game development, my mind's like, oh man, this is gonna take 1 to 2 years, and who knows if we're in a bear market, bull market. So in crypto, I rather prefer somebody that's a lean team that doesn't raise too much versus somebody that's gonna potentially come out with a AAA product. I'll invest in you after you've been out for a little bit and I've seen some progress versus the little guy who has less to lose versus the other one.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Like I especially now that at first like my first couple of years I was purely just like gaming. And over the last like 2 years, like I've gotten deeper into like the trading and DeFi space cuz more so just cuz I'm interested in learning about the things that are happening on that side of crypto. Like I don't think I'm a great trader by any means necessary, nor am I like trading regularly every day. But to me that space is super interesting because for example, when you look at, a project like Hyperliquid, you know, no VC money, just go in and build something. And then you look up and it's like, where's all this value accrued from? And it's like, that is like the blueprint in the future. Granted, not every project has the funds or has the capacity or the talent to be able to do that. But I think across chains, we're going to start seeing that happen where it's like you see a need or a niche for a product and someone comes in and says, we're just going to build like the minimum viable thing that gets this making money or gets this getting some buzz or attention on your chain. And then once that happens, the value accrual starts to happen. And then to your point, Ace, like traders, people who are just like, okay, I'm going to jump in because I believe in this and I think it's cool. They're going to jump in and say, hey, like this is actually interesting. And what a lot of people don't realize, I actually think that the trader market and those who are like traders and also influencers, they influence a lot of what happens in the overall markets of projects that are being innovated upon. Like, for example, if you took like an AI 16Z or any of these projects that have kind of built these tokens, yeah, they're cool ideas on their own, but the real value has been derived from people who either traded it when it came out, and then it got to a point where it's like those traders propped it up enough for there to be real conviction and believers behind what was happening. And I think that in that idea, like traders get a bad run of like, oh, well, they just buy and sell tokens. It's like a lot of the stuff that is actually interesting, you wouldn't even see it on your timeline if it wasn't for like a trader maybe getting in early and then tweeting about, oh my God, how I fumbled a crazy generational bag. But it might just be I bought in at 150 to 200K and it ran to 20 mil. But then people see it at 20 mil and they're like, yo, this is actually like pretty cool. I'm going to start buying it now. And it starts building these cult communities. So I think that like, it's almost like crypto's ecosystem as a whole. Every role has a purpose for taking a project that's valuable to the next level.
That's alpha right there.
That's big time alpha. That's good shit, man. Ace, what are you looking at for other stuff? I mean, we talked a bunch about gaming. I think for us at Saga, AI is kind of cooking mostly because we're starting to see the projects that we've kind of, I guess, been curating or are coming to us behind the scenes, getting ready to like go to market. We're hyped on SimNGMI. We're going to talk a little bit later today about another kind of AI project that's rolling out. We've got a stack of some pretty cool like projects and collaborations for I think January will hit, maybe early February. But what else in the space here? What are you interested in? Where's the innovation happening? What do you say to this? I guess we're on a stream with a bunch of people here who either follow our project or are just kind of interested in what's the latest in the space.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always like a big fan of people who are solving like the liquidity issue across chains and just figuring out how to fix that fragmentation of it. So I know you guys are doing a little something on that part of stuff. So I'll let you guys speak more on that. But looking forward to what you guys are doing there because I know that's a big issue over on Solana in general, and across other chains. But for me personally, I mean, I've been big into liquidity providing this year, so I'm just strictly just providing liquidity, doing DLMMs and just normal AMMs.
Yeah.
And so I'm not necessarily worried about being directional on anything. So that's where I'm looking for right now is like what people are doing on Solana. I'm like really deep into the tech this year, so I understand a lot more of how things function, how routing works, how some of these pools work and pricing works for those pools. So that's my thing this year is looking for projects who are building something along the lines of that or something that's beneficial for those things.
Maybe it's a good
What's like
tea.
the
Oh, go ahead.
what's a big like from your perspective as a person who LPs, like what is the liquidity problem for you? I'm actually very curious about like what you run into day to day, actually.
I think it's more so the clarity of things. Now this year is a big year for concentrated liquidity, and a lot of people still do not understand concentrated liquidity. So you can't normally tell on a chart what's an AMM pool chart or what's a concentrated liquidity chart. Before you didn't have to worry about it because everything was an AMM, so everything was properly split 50-50. Nowadays there could be a bunch of tokens to the upside and most people will never know. So right off the bat, that's probably the biggest issue is picking a coin without realizing that there's concentrated liquidity in there. I know how to search for that, but majority of my friends and my participants that I get into the system, they don't understand it until they realize the hard way.
I see, I see.
But that's
That's
probably one of them. But then it comes down to like the trading stuff. Whenever I'm like on perps and stuff, there's certain dexes that do have the liquidity, and then other dexes don't have any kind of liquidity and zero market makers. So I'm like struggling from going from platform to platform just to find liquidity because I much prefer to be on chain rather than on a centralized exchange. So for me, it's always a little tricky if I'm trying to hedge some sort of bet or do some kind of long on something that's trending at the moment.
got it. Makes sense. Okay, cool. Interesting.
Maybe it's a good tee up for you, Jin, to talk a little bit about. I don't know if we've actually been. We haven't had a spaces this week, so we haven't talked about any of the announcements that actually went out.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, so for those who are here, I'm sure everyone in our audience knows, but for those who don't know right now, so the background of all this is it started with all of our like developers that were deploying games, deploying kind of various products on Saga. What we realized pretty quickly is everyone was like, hey, I need liquidity. I need to figure out a way to get, USDC or like I need my users to be able to onboard like specific kind of tokens and get liquidity for my chain. So we're like, all right, so we have a pretty broad base of like all the priorities that we want for Saga. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna push this liquidity things right up front essentially, and then get this out as quickly as possible. And so immediately after launching our mainnet, our entire team kind of refocused ourselves into dealing with liquidity within Saga and understanding how to like fix this problem that exists, which is like if one of the chainlets decide to like onboard some of the liquidity, then it's kind of siloed there, and then you want essentially liquidity, at least within your ecosystem, to be kind of contained in one location and accessible to everybody as easily as possible. And so the liquidity integration layer is kind of like has been our brainchild for the last almost like half a year, a little more than that, essentially. And this week we announced essentially we're onboarding Uniswap v3 essentially onto Saga, which means that there is a chainlet that's up right now that currently has the Uniswap v3 contract there. And that will be where everybody within the Saga ecosystem kind of goes and congregates for liquidity ultimately. So, for example, Bryson, if you launch a chainlet today, you essentially should have access to Uniswap as if it was deployed on your own chain, like a layer one essentially, but it's not. It's just somewhere else essentially.
So you can just grab there'll always be liquidity now, or at least the potential of liquidity if you need to swap from token to token.
Yep. Yeah. So essentially, let's say you launch a game and you have a chainlet called Bryce Chain. Let's call it that. you go to our platform chain and you spin up a chain essentially. It's like it takes like 3 minutes. As soon as that 3 minutes is up, it will already have automatically a bridge from your chain to the chain that has the Uniswap contract essentially. And so using Squid essentially, you can automatically route any like command from your chain all the way up to that Uniswap chain essentially and swap and then bring it back. And it's all automatic essentially. And so this is really cool because I'm not sure for the viewers out there. Uniswap, there's Uniswap.org or whatever. I forget what the website is, but there's Uniswap Labs runs like a front end essentially for Uniswap. But most of the time, most folks don't use that because it doesn't support all the chains essentially. So we're partnering with this group called OKU, and they're kind of like I would consider them like like an aggregator of all the different kind of Uniswap contracts, similar type things all across the ecosystem essentially. And the really cool thing about this whole thing is that because Oku is already integrated with Squid, the routing product, our product just kind of like plugs into their product without them making any changes, which is really neat in my opinion. So any user essentially can get the experience of like as if they're just interfaced with Oku and be able to bring assets in from Ethereum, bring assets in from any kind of chain essentially that we will have bridges to, and then be able to swap on the Saga Uniswap front end that Oku sets up essentially. And so we have like a so one of the things that Squid actually has is this thing called intents that they're supporting, which is essentially replacing like a bridge transaction with like a send transactions on both ends and like some escrow transactions, which sets like the value of the transactions are super low. And once we actually incorporate this, we're gonna try to test this out where if we let's say have a like a Ethereum USDT pool on Saga, it actually might be cheaper to let's say somebody's trying to swap from ETH to USDT on Uniswap on Ethereum. It actually might be cheaper to route it automatically to Saga, so the ETH to Saga through the intent solution, swap on the Saga Uniswap instance, and then intent back into Ethereum actually. And so that means that like people who are trying to do trades will automatically route because they'll just look at the price and be like, hey, this swap is cheaper for me, and it might actually automatically route through Saga, which is really neat in my opinion. So these are all kinds of like random things that we're doing that hopefully makes the experience a lot easier. And anybody who interfaces with Squid Router and can essentially plug into Saga and get all the routes automatically to every single one of these chainlets that people have stood up. So.
That's pretty cool. You guys are partnering with Oku. Those guys are awesome. They have a really cool front end for some of the pool making over at Uniswap.
Yeah. They're also I don't know if this is public. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think they're looking into lending, and so that's also the direction that we're looking next as well. So they aggregate AMMs and pools, and then they're also looking into aggregating lending protocols ultimately, and so. It's a pretty natural next step for a project who's onboarding Uniswap is like, hey, how do we get a cool lending protocol so people can leverage up and LP essentially, right? So that's probably the next direction that we're looking for after the AMM goes live on little kind of in the beginning of next year essentially. So
Gonna be a wild world for 2025.
That's sick. Yeah, I'm interested to see what projects like the amount of projects you guys have like actually like jumping on board because I'm sure there was like a layer of projects that were like, hey, we'd love to use the product, but like we're afraid of like the whole like liquidity being on whether it's Solana or ETH, like how are we gonna get liquidity? So I think that'll open up the floodgates a bit.
Yeah. Also like we've been talking to folks like Velodrome from Base essentially, and one of the things that we want to do is so Base has really good liquidity with CBBTC, which is like Coinbase's like Bitcoin wrapped version on Base essentially. And so in the long run, we also want like liquidity into Bitcoin. And so if the liquidity integration works properly, there is a scenario in which actually swapping on a Uniswap instance on Saga is just as easy as routing all the stuff to base and swapping it on base. And so we might actually be able to do some interesting things with the the Velodrome team to get liquidity and tap liquidity. And that would be really cool in my opinion. Is not only is it most projects are like, hey, you must swap within our community's technology, and that's all we care about. It's like we don't really care about that. From our perspective, if the liquidity integration makes it easy, such that anyone can swap anywhere in whatever path is most efficient, we're like pretty happy about that ultimately. And so that's gonna be a cool little project we spin up next year essentially as we figure out if we can make liquidity integration layer just as easy inside of Saga versus outside of Saga as well. And that will come with intents as well. The intents is like a pretty key. It's such a cool technology in my opinion to make liquidity flow a lot easier because you don't have to worry about bridging transactions ultimately. So
Breakthrough. It'll be big. It's a lot to cut off. It's a lot to bite off. But I mean, obviously, Jin, you guys are been elbow deep in this shit for quite a while now. It's good to finally be able to, I think, talk about some of it outside of our walls too.
yeah, I don't know. Inadvertently, I knew this was gonna happen one day, but in the beginning I was an infra builder, and now I'm a DeFi degen. I have to figure out how liquidity works. I'm like, why is this my job now?
That was the most exciting part for me in Solana, just like building there this year, because I've always traded all these years, but finally decided to build, and having to learn all that stuff was absolutely exciting. I was like, wow, there's a whole other layer to crypto that I'm not learning about. So now I'm like interested in learning stuff on Uniswap, whatever chain it is. I'm just so curious now.
Yeah. I think the complexity you're gonna realize is like quadruples real fast because in Solana at least it's like mostly a singular chain, right? So it's like everything is composable, it's super easy, and then as soon as you go into like the multi-chain world, you're like, holy crap, there's like a whole next level of like things I got to think about. Yeah. It's gonna be exciting. I'm actually really excited for you. I think maybe one day we'll get learnings from you so that we can make our product better ultimately. So
Yeah, dude, I guess we got to start bringing you into some of the behind the scenes.
I'm over here trying to read up on Ace's product so I can learn what he's doing.
Gotta get in the Discord, man. Gotta get that alpha. Jin, okay, wait. Oh shit, we're like running up. Holiday Fireside is going long. We probably want to touch on, because we have a stream, like a thread running out about it. All of the changes to the liquidity layer are going to impact kind of our reward system a little bit too in 2025. Do we want to kind of talk about that before we cut out? I know we've got a couple of alpha hunters in here.
Yeah. And this will be kind of relevant for Ace as well, because if he's going to LP, this is going to be pretty relevant. So since the beginning of our launch, one of the things that we've been doing is focusing on what's called our power level over 9,000 campaign, which is kind of like our there's a lot of names the ecosystem uses. I think OP calls it a retroactive airdrop. They just like there's an airdrop that goes out constantly. We have an airdrop program. It's called power level over 9,000. We've had some really good success this year. Let me actually pull up. Should I pull up some?
Yeah, dude. Some of the stats are actually kind of crazy.
Some stats, or
yeah, you should.
So one of the things that we wanted to do is create like a recurring community activity that comes once a month, at least for Saga. And the idea is to bolster like activities that we want incentivized within Saga. So one in the beginning, one of the biggest things that we wanted to make sure was to get enough staked in to add security for the Saga mainnet essentially. And so for the first 8 vaults, we've been kind of prioritizing staking and getting loyalty for staking so that we can reward people essentially. So this is the beginning. So we've had 8 campaigns so far, 8 vaults so far, and within those 8 vaults, we've had 59 campaigns. So we have not only kind of Saga rewards, but the builders that are on Saga who also want to distribute out to our community. There's been a lot of NFTs and different drops that's been happening, and so we've had around 60 campaigns. Across all 8 vaults, I think we have actually had claims for more than 500,000, so about 541,000 different claims across all the different campaigns.
Yeah. 500,000 in like 6 8 months.
Yeah.
Kind of wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy actually. And then And in all of those, there has been Saga distributions because we want to, really reward those people who do come back and continue to interface with all the stuff that we want our community members to focus on. And so, if you actually accumulate all of the Saga returns across all the different vaults, so Vault 1, Vault 2, Vault 3, Vault 4, all the way to Vault 8, and accumulate everyone. So let's say somebody was loyal throughout all of that and got essentially the maximum distribution that they could have. I think we calculated it's like close to around 1,000% that someone got rewarded for coming back and doing the activities that we want them to ultimately. The total Saga distribution this year has been there was 16 million Saga tokens that have been distributed so far. And so over the 8 months through these campaigns, essentially, which is a constant drip. And this is not going to slow down. It's not going to change. This is essentially the model that we have. However, we're going to start slightly modifying where all these Saga tokens go to. So up to now, we've mostly just distributed out to stakers, but we now have an AMM, and Uniswap V3 is going to be live. And so once that goes live, we're going to start introducing rewards for LPing on Uniswap. Kind of like similarly to how, like Merkle or other kinds of incentivization protocols, essentially, with the Uniswap pools. We'll do the same thing, but we'll do it in our claims page. This is going to be kind of the same page that everyone goes to right now for pile level over 9,000. It's now going to have kind of new campaigns that involved LPing ultimately that we're going to start pushing people towards. And so it's going to follow the same vault snapshot schedule. We're going to snapshot the Saga EVM chain as well as the Saga chain as well. And so we're going to start, and then we're going to utilize a methodology that Angle Merkle essentially uses pretty similarly as well, which is how much fees did this account take, how much of the token A and token B it has, and then it calculates some score essentially within that time period. That's an integral of the time period in the middle. And then we'll distribute out some Saga tokens to folks who are participating in LPing essentially. And I think there's some more details that we're adjusting some of the staking stuff, but that's the big news ultimately. And really the idea here, the reason why we are doing this is because what we want is a holistic activity set of things to do when people join the Saga community. So, for example, let's say right now you're a super staker and you stake a lot of Saga tokens. We want to have it visibly set so that when you go to claim the page, you'll look at some other campaigns and say, oh, there's an LP campaign now. So now I want to go and claim and see if I can LP here in conjunction with the staking essentially, so that I can get rewards for that and juice it up. And so the way that we're going to design this is if you participate in both the staking and the LPing, you'll get some bonus essentially, and vice versa, the same thing. So maybe Ace is not a staker, but I think he is, but let's say he's not a staker and he comes in and he starts by LPing and he learns that he can claim rewards before LPing. They can look at some of the other campaign and say, oh, actually, if I go and stake Saga, I can get more rewards. And so now I'll think a little bit about diverting some capital into staking as well. And so over time, we're going to expand this pool out to encompass all activities we want Saga to be. So one is lending, game participation, all that kind of stuff is going to get baked into it. So
See you later, Bryce. Thanks for hanging out, man.
ho, ho, ho.
Appreciate
Thank you guys
it,
for
dude.
having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take care.
Talk soon, man. All right.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because I know whenever I'm on like the staking page, I know especially recently there was a lot of things that I received. Some of them were even like tokens and stuff. And just to have that option to toss into LP, because I normally don't check any of my stuff, especially if it's on something that I'm more so long-term holding. So just to be able to do an LP would be pretty cool. And it would be good education for people as well, because most people are always scared of that or just don't understand it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I think V3 always makes it a little bit more complicated for people because they're like, I don't understand how this works. You have to like send a band, and it's like, how do I just want to put it in there and forget about it, right? But it's not always the most ideal for liquidity ultimately, and so that's like, I think a lot of education will have to go in on our end to help and guide people ultimately.
I mean, now that I know how V3 works, it's like I really regret not learning that stuff a lot sooner because it's actually pretty simple, but they make it out to be very difficult. But it's actually not, especially with
Yeah.
Oku and stuff now.
Yeah, you just have to be on top of it more. I think some people are more passive, right? And that becomes a little bit harder then, but it's okay.
Big stuff. Big stuff for yeah.
Well, although actually, I think you're right. I think Oku was talking about putting automation in as well. So there might be automation that you can actually follow. That might make it a lot easier as well to put it into pools. So
It's been a dream working with the Oku team so far.
yeah, they're pretty fantastic.
Yeah, really strong. We're running about 10 minutes past the hour. Dude, Ace, wanted to thank you for joining. Bryce had to drop off. Jin, Santa Jin, thank you as well. It's been good getting a recap. Thanks to everybody who hung out and dealt with all my bad streaming OBS stuff, but it's been good to get together with the community to celebrate the end of the year. We'll get this up on YouTube if anybody missed it, so people can catch back up on everything that we're doing. 2025 is going to be really exciting for us. I think we're very hyped. We're looking ahead at what's going on in January, and we're trying to figure out how to fit everything in. Frankly, like Bryce said, a lot of projects that have been waiting for maybe the liquidity layer or have been building. We have a beta program for builders who want to work in the DeFi space that we just kicked off, and we'll see a lot more of them come soon. You'll be seeing a ton of announcements around that in January. A whole nother string of kind of partnerships for Little C, which is the liquidity layer. We'll also be announcing in January. We have a brand campaign. We have some new hire announcements that are going to come through in January. First event of the year is in South America in January. Our first community IRL meetup is happening in Taiwan in January. So, thank you again to, I think, the Saga community. Thanks to friends of the pod like Ace who've kind of been along with us on this journey. And yeah, next year should be a huge one. So, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Jin, Ace. Do you guys have any sign off here?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Look forward to what you guys have cooking in 2025 and 2020 forever.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, 1 year after the next. Santa Jin, any last minute gifts?
Ho ho ho! I don't know. Yes, everybody gets coal blocks. But thanks for hosting. It's been fun. Santa Jin will be back. But I hope everyone has a relaxing Christmas and New Year break. I know everyone has been sprinting, and so even the community, I'm sure, some well-deserved rest for everybody. So
Yeah.
have a good end of the year, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Talk